Hey there, and welcome to Lambda Spotlight. My name is Tycho, but most of you probably know me as Simabane. The Lambda Spotlight is a new series that will cover topics both old and new, whether that be mods, fan art, films, animations, and more. Today we're going to be covering everything we know so far about Half-Life Alyx. Let's get into it.
LambdaGeneration.
Right off the bat, we can see that Half-Life Alyx looks absolutely stunning. Valve has definitely been pushing virtual reality to its limits, as well as Source 2. I'll get to more about Source 2 and what to expect in a bit though. The first thing you'll notice is that Alyx has disembodied floating hands with minds of their own. What may have been a laundromat is visible in the background. Amongst the wreckage, you can see some sort of blue glowing creature skitter past. A closer look shows that this may be a new variant of Headcrab, with a blue glow and electricity seemingly following the creature as it moves. You can also see that the creature has a tail or limb of some sort, which it lifts up before disappearing. Who knows, maybe the rats got mutated or something. Shortly after, Alyx turns around and is met face to face with what looks to be the underside of a classic headcrab. It also almost eats her face off. As the trailer cuts to black after Alyx's near-death experience, we have an unknown character speak before Alyx responds. You may notice that Alyx sounds a bit different. This is because Alyx is being voiced by Azuma Akaga, who will be taking on the role of Alyx's voice actor instead of Miro Dandridge. The reasoning behind Valve's decision to switch voice actors for Alyx is because of the need for her to sound younger, as Half-Life Alyx takes place before Half-Life 2. While we're on the topic of voice actors right now, it's been confirmed that Michael Shapiro will return to voice the G-Man, Ellen McLean will return as the voice of the Combine Overwatch broadcast, Tony Todd will return as the voice of the Vortigons, James Moses Black will be the new voice for Eli Vance, and Reese Darby will take on a new Resistance character named Russell. I wonder where Dr. Kleiner is. Must have gotten lost while searching for Lamar. In the next shot, we have quite a treat for the eyes. Surrounded by City 17, we can see an incomplete version of the Citadel, which looks to be under construction. There is also a substantial amount of cables connecting to the Citadel, which may possibly be the Citadel's temporary power source until a dark energy reactor core can be put in place. Combine Hunter Choppers can be seen in the distance as well, presumably moving parts for construction of the Citadel. In the next shot, we can see Combine Overwatch soldiers with a different design and color scheme on their suits. Instead of the normal dark bluish gray we see in Half-Life 2, these soldiers feature dark gray suits with orange markings. The suits also have more of a hazmat styled appearance, rather than the sturdier and armor-padded look soldiers from Half-Life 2 have. The soldiers shown here carry backpacks of some sort, and two types of backpack can be seen here. This is most likely just pure aesthetics, but may serve some sort of practical function. The weapons carried by the soldiers look similar to the AR-2 pulse rifle seen in Half-Life 2. This is probably an earlier version of the weapon, and as time went on, the Combine's technology improved. In the background, we can see a playground that looks very similar to the one seen in the apartment complexes in Half-Life 2, featuring a merry-go-round, seesaw, slide, and a tic-tac-toe panel. Further back, we have a Strider carrying a transport platform with an Overwatch soldier inside. The Strider also has what appears to be an exoskeleton or additional armor around the legs. It's also possible that the Strider may be controlled by the exoskeleton, which is piloted from the mounted compartment. Another interesting thing to note is that the Strider seen here is a pale white color rather than the brownish tan colored Striders that appear in Half-Life 2. We can also see a Brincast panel on the side of one of the apartment buildings. This isn't a new thing and can be seen throughout C-17 and Half-Life 2, but it still looks pretty nice in the new upgraded Source 2 environment. Next, we can see the power lines actively being used. What looks like a massive Combine vessel of some sort can be seen hovering above City 17 in the distance, sucking in electricity to presumably power itself. In the next shot, we can see Alyx using her trusty EMP tool to perform some sort of new puzzle mechanic that features rerouting wires in order to turn on the power. Now this is a pretty interesting shot. Here we have some sort of Combine device or machinery. My guess is that this is some sort of explosive that will aid the Resistance in rebelling against the Combine. But like with pretty much everything, this is just speculation. We'll have to wait until Half-Life Alyx releases to find out for sure. Next, we have Russell, a new Resistance character featured in Half-Life Alyx who is voiced by Reese Darby. It may just be me, but he does remind me of Odell a little. In the next shot, we can see Alyx pulling her gloved hands out of what appears to be a device to power the gloves. Next off, we can see Russell trying to be funny and nearly killing Alyx as a result. And more importantly, the function of Alyx's new gloves. Alyx has gravity gloves, which are a substitute to the gravity gun. The gravity gun is used throughout Half-Life 2 by a certain 27-year-old quantum physicist. I mean, look at her load a magazine into that USB match like she's using the Force. Anyway, in the next shot we have a good view of Alyx's left hand and of course her glove, which seems to display sensitive vital sign information such as your health bar, shown in the form of 3 hearts. It's possible that each heart represents a life or percentage of the amount of damage you can take before death. In front of Alyx, you can also see a new iteration of the health charger system that appears to inject healing fluid into the hand. And yes, that is an antlion grub. Found in multiple chapters of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, these little guys drop a yellow substance upon death that increases your health. As seen here, the antlion grubs are locked within tubes and drained of the healing substance for use in the health chargers. Oh, and Alyx is also kicking some Headcrab zombie ass in the background. In the next shot, we have a scripted sequence of a Headcrab zombie bursting through a brick wall into what appears to be a sewer section. Definitely reminds me of Half-Life 2's Root Canal chapter quite a bit. In this shot, we can see some more Combine soldiers who are attempting to hunt Alyx down. Luckily, Alyx quickly reacts and returns fire with a new shotgun-styled weapon, so it looks like we have a new confirmed weapon, and boy oh boy does it look fun to use. Something notable here is how different the soldiers sound compared to Half-Life 2. Higher pitched, easier to understand, and also just more human sounding in general. Another interesting thing is how the soldiers now have the flatline death sound, which only happened with Metrocops. However, seeing as Half-Life Alyx is a prequel to Half-Life 2, it's possible that at the time, soldiers were produced in a different way. As Russell talks about how Eli Vance has been captured, we get our first reveal of how the younger, middle-aged version of Eli will be portrayed. We also have a much better view of the Combine soldiers' front side. Yet another type of Combine weaponry can be seen here. Looks like we'll have plenty of toys to play around with. Next, we have an underbelly shot of a Strider making its way through war-torn streets. In the background, we can see some sort of Combine building or possibly a ship of some kind. Here we can see what looks to be the inside of a total apartment building filled with poison headcrabs. A dead poison headcrab can be seen being pulled up by what is probably a barnacle, so it does look like we'll be seeing them once again. In the next shot, we have a razor train speeding by, and once again it looks quite amazing. Next up, we have an outdoor shot of City 17. High-definition models of the vehicles from Half-Life 2 can be seen on the street along with a crouching Combine soldier. Here we can see a holographic display projecting a map of what is probably City 17. The display can also be interacted with, as shown when Alyx moves a teacup. In order to show off physics, because this is a Half-Life game and it's Valve, we can see Alyx throw a box filled with packing foam at a Combine soldier to make him lose balance and fall over the railing. In the next shot, we have a couple of Combine soldiers having some trouble with the barnacles, which you can see in the background. The next two shots are quite a lot to take in. We have what looks to be a possible Zen environment, which reminds me a lot of the Flood from Halo. Going into the second shot, we have some sort of structure built within the Zen environment. On the door that leads into the structure, there's some sort of glowing symbol. You can also hear Tony Todd doing his magic as well. Next, we have another shot of a hallway in an abandoned apartment building. I really just love the lighting and atmosphere here. It looks awesome. Here we can see another interactive holographic display, this time showing what looks to be star systems. In the next shot, we have Alyx using her gravity gloves to pull some sort of device away from a Combine soldier in what is probably a Combine base, judging from all the transport pods that are seen in the Citadel and the Combine screens. What exactly this device will trigger has yet to be revealed, but it certainly does sound important if Alyx is risking her life for it. Next off, we can see that Alyx has stumbled into a group of Headcrab zombies, which look extremely pale and pasty white. In the background was possibly another new type of Headcrab can be seen. This new Headcrab variant features red spikes and a black shell. In the next shot, we have another Zen-infested sewer segment with what may have been a person in an HEV suit, judging by the chest-mounted flashlight. A long flesh-like substance can also be seen attached to the head and shoulder of the person, along with what looks like bones sticking out. The person's fingers are also abnormally long, which means this could have also been a Headcrab zombie. Next, we have a Headcrabless zombie of some sort shooting lightning. which may have a connection to the creature we saw in the beginning of the trailer. On the floor, we can also see what might be a possible new hazmat Combine Soldier variant, judging from the helmet design, which looks similar to the standard soldier helmet.
Close your eyes, honey.
Eli yells, "Close your eyes, honey," and we're brought into our next shot, where we get a glimpse of 2 new possible weapons in an antlion invasion. The antlions look quite nice in the new lighting, and even more terrifying than they were in Half-Life 2. The next shot is pretty breathtaking. Hovering above City 17, we can see a large Combine vessel that appears to be drawing power to recharge or power the ship for some other reason. This is probably just wishful thinking, but it'd be pretty sick to be able to break into and explore the Combine ships at some point in the game. And when you think it's all over, you're greeted with G-Man smirking and looking as ominous as ever. G-Man in VR is looking pretty sexy. Oh, and Michael Morasky is behind the fantastic music you can hear in the trailer. He will also be composing the soundtrack for Half-Life Alyx, and is notable for his work composing the scores for Portal 2, Team Fortress 2, and the Left 4 Dead series. Half-Life Alyx is set to release in March 2020, and so far I'm pretty excited by the direction Valve is taking for the next Half-Life game in over a decade. Ah yes, Half-Life.com. This brings us into our next part of the video. Valve has a brand new website dedicated to the Half-Life series. Here, we have various 4K screenshots of characters in Half-Life Alyx's environment, some of which are not seen in the trailer. Our first manhunt can be seen here in this section of City 17, which looks like it took influence from the entrance to the train station in Half-Life 2. We also have some remakes of equipment from Dr. Kleiner's lab, which looks absolutely gorgeous. Here we have an abandoned subway station section, complete with rubble and what might be a fast headcrab zombie. Next, we have another apartment section featuring a new Combine Soldier variant, which looks like an absolute tank. Not a battle I'd take lightly if I were in combat with this guy. And lastly, we have this awesome concept art depiction of a younger version of Alyx, along with a group of Metro Cops and a Combine Soldier. One notable thing that sticks out is the stun batons being used by the Metro Cops, which look like an earlier version of the stun batons seen in Half-Life 2. On the wall, we can see a wanted poster with Eli's face. On the other wall, there is another poster that appears to say "Report the Vort," accompanied by a distinct picture of a Vorgant behind the letters. For all you modders out there, you'll be happy to hear that Half-Life Alyx will launch with a SDK for Source 2, along with additional modding tools and Steam Workshop support. This isn't just empty words, of course. Here's a screenshot of the Hammer 2 environment, featuring a level from Half-Life Alyx. It's a little bit unfortunate that Half-Life Alyx is VR only, but I'm sure we'll all get our chance to play it in its full glory. Eventually. Owners of the Valve Index will receive Half-Life Alyx for free, plus some other digital goodies such as weapon skins for Half-Life Alyx and Half-Life Alyx themed content for CSGO. Half-Life Alyx is also compatible to play on with VR headsets other than the Valve Index. This includes the HTC Vive, Windows Mixed Reality, Oculus Rift, and Oculus Quest. If you'd like to read more about the Valve Index and what Half-Life Alyx will entail, the link to the Half-Life website will be in the description. I hope you're not tired of screenshots, because we got more of them. Recently, exactly 9 new leaked Half-Life Alyx screenshots were unveiled by Tyler McVicker, the creator of the Valve News Network YouTube channel. Let's start with the screenshots featuring characters first. So you might remember this screenshot from the announcement trailer. It appears that since the release of the trailer in November, the Combine soldiers shown here have undergone a complete visual overhaul, with their suit designs completely reworked. Gone is the grayish-orange color scheme we originally saw. These soldiers now have white and orange suits with brand new armband symbols that replace the old Overwatch insignia. The second screenshot we have takes place a few moments prior to the first, where we can see a citizen or rebel being interrogated and eventually executed. In our third screenshot, we have another view of the tank-like Combine Soldier variant seen in the trailer, which features a bulky helmet and armored vest or suit. The suit appears to be the same as the version shown in the trailer, but now the eye holes on the helmet glow blue instead of orange. But what will probably capture your attention most is the weapon carried by this new enemy. Confirmed by Tyler, this new weapon is a flamethrower. The influence for this enemy comes from multiple concepts, the strongest of which is the Cremare, a cut Half-Life 2 beta enemy. The Cremare was meant to patrol and keep the streets clear of bodies. As seen here, the Cremare design was ultimately recycled into this new enemy. So, does this mean Alyx gets to wield a flamethrower and keep the streets clean herself? I sure hope so. Our fourth screenshot is a view of a dead headcrabless zombie leaning against what looks like laundry bins. Put simply, this looks far more terrifying than the headcrab zombie in Half-Life 2 with all the new visible details that can now be seen. Behind the zombie, there is also a jug that might be some sort of cleaning liquid along with a pan. With all of the information that can be gleaned in these new screenshots along with the laundromat seen in the beginning of the announcement trailer, it's very possible that we might be visiting a hospital at some point in the game. Our 5th screenshot shows what might be another sewer or underground area. As seen here, the ground is littered with trash and there is also a combine lamp in the corner, meaning the area may be monitored by the combine. By the wall there is also a sleeping bag or mattress, which means at some point someone had been sleeping there. Next up, our 6th screenshot shows a glimpse of an outdoor section of City 17 and resembles part of the Canals chapter from Half-Life 2. A sign can also be seen laying on the ground upside down and reads "Do not enter" in English and Russian. Our 7th screenshot shows part of a combine warning sign with infestation control written on it, along with a picture of what is probably the flamethrower combine soldier variant cleaning up the bodies of Zen creatures. To the right of the picture is a Combine Overwatch logo along with something written in the language of the Combine race. Our 8th screenshot shows a clearly unfinished building along with a human corpse. Like with a lot of the environments shown so far in Half-Life Alyx, the lighting looks pretty awesome. We can't have a Half-Life game without the error symbol, now can we? Last but not least, the 9th screenshot shows the infamous error model seen in Half-Life 2. So it looks like the error model in Half-Life Alyx is confirmed. You can now rest easy. Around the error model we can also see a peek of a Combine base, featuring those glowing blue lights that the Combine seem to love. As for what exactly the error actually represented can only be speculated at the moment. I'm sure the secret will be uncovered soon enough though. Valve isn't done with their magic yet. The Half-Life Alyx team recently hosted an Ask Me Anything on the Half-Life subreddit. There were quite a few interesting questions, which of course got some interesting answers in return. Let's go over some of them. Smashlurks asks if we will get a full Source 2 SDK when Half-Life Alyx releases, to which the Half-Life Alyx team answers, "We're not planning on shipping a full SDK. We'd really like to release one at some point, but it's a ton of work because Source 2 is a new toolset. Any time we spend on it now is also time we could be spending on polishing the game, which we think is more important. As a result, we thought it wasn't appropriate to promise anything before release." Geozak22 asks, "Will there be a train ride in Half-Life Alyx?" The team replies, "It's actually illegal to ship a Half-Life game if you don't spend at least a little time riding in a train." No Biting asks how many people are working on Half-Life Alyx. The team answers right now it's around 80 people, which puts it as the largest single team we've ever had at Valve. Sterling FM asks, how are barnacles a threat in virtual reality? Do they pull the player upwards or do they kill instantly to avoid player discomfort? Will there be any callbacks to original Combine Soldier Metrocop designs from Half-Life 2? Do creatures react to audio that the player creates, as seen in the trailer with a mysterious new creature that scurries away after hearing Alyx move a bucket? Is a limb dismemberment / body damage system in the game? For the smooth locomotion option, will it also support VR jumping? The team answers, yes, barnacles are a threat in VR. They don't kill you instantly. You'll deal with them in familiar ways, but the opportunities afforded by VR also give you new methods to use against them. Similarly, Combine Soldiers definitely return, both in the form you've previously seen them, as well as new variations to keep players busy and take advantage of VR. Some creatures respond to audio more than others. We don't want to spoil anything, but there's an example of this we're particularly excited about. As with audio, limb dismemberment is not a factor in most combat encounters, but there is a very notable exception. Because the game includes the ability to mantle in continuous motion, you'd often need to jump. If you need to get past an obstacle like a crate, you mantle up rather than jump up. The only time you need to jump is to traverse a short gap, which happens very rarely. We tried a few iterations of jumping, but ultimately found out that even in continuous motion, players preferred dealing with those jumps with a teleport-style movement. PM Body Parts asks, the trailer implies that the player character will be voiced for the first time in a Half-Life game. Is that the case? And if so, did it affect the way you approach narrative design, dialogue, and NPC interactions? Does the above represent a deliberate shift in design ethos away from blank slate player characters like Gordon Freeman? Has designing VR necessitated a change in your approach to level design? Will Half-Life Alyx feel similar tonally and atmospherically to Half-Life 2, or have you shifted in a more or less serious direction? Eric Walpole responds, I personally prefer writing games where the viewpoint character speaks. We made the silence of the protagonist into a joke in the Portal games, but you only get to pull that gag once. If I had my way, we wouldn't do any more silent protagonists. That said, I don't get my way as often as I deserve, so who knows what's going to happen. Mad Scientist asks, what did the team learn when developing enemy AI for VR? Does Half-Life Alyx use a dynamic soundtrack? One of the sound designers responds, if you mean do the music and sound effects react or change in some way in regards to what's going on in game, then the answer is yes. Thole Gaming asks, you seem confident in releasing Half-Life Alyx on time. How much of the game is done? I'm worried about Valve time kicking in. The team answers, with the exception of some tweaks to the absolute final scene, the game is done. Lots of us at Valve have played through the entire game multiple times. Right now we're primarily polishing and fixing bugs, which is where we'd hope to be at this point in the development cycle. We're confident we'll hit our intended release. We let the Valve time happen before we announced the game. Pokeheart asks, are we going to get a gameplay reveal anytime soon? The team responds, yes, it's our plan to release gameplay videos in the lead up to launch. Our intention is to use these to show not just gameplay elements, but also VR specific elements like different movement options. Super Small asks, will the game feature a developer commentary similar to that seen in previous titles? The team responds with, we are huge fans of commentary and definitely plan on producing it for Half-Life Alyx, but it's unlikely that I will have it for launch day. Rojahel asks, the Half-Life website states that Hammer will be updated with VR tools and components. What other features will be added to improve Hammer? Will it be possible to make community content in Source 2 for other Source 1 games? Or will the new editor be Half-Life Alyx exclusive? One of the level designers responds, Hammer in Source 2 has been overhauled from the ground up. Everything from how geometry is built and textured to how asset creation is done has been improved to increase the speed and ease at which we can build and iterate on levels. One big feature for us on Half-Life Alyx was the addition of a system similar to Layers, where individual map files from multiple level designers, environmental artists, and sound designers are combined into a single map. This had a huge impact on how many designers could get their hands into each map, which resulted in a much denser level of content throughout the game. Sman the Man asks, was Half-Life Alyx the main reason you decided to open up communications with the community more? What is the most exciting mechanic you can talk about without spoiling anything? Jamal responds with, we always enjoy speaking with the community. Our games like Dota 2 and Counter-Strike have a long history of ongoing communication with their players. For Half-Life Alyx, our first single-player campaign in several years, we wanted to be able to speak to the community in a different way than we do with our service games. That prompted much of the recent work we've done on social media and other venues like the new Half-Life website. We don't want to spoil too much of the game, but my personal favorite mechanic is being able to grab and manipulate so many different things with my hands. Ormagoisha asks, how involved was Mark Laidlaw with Half-Life Alyx? Rumor has it that there was a bit of a falling out internally. Has he consulted on the story for the game recently? How much did Half-Life 1 influence Half-Life Alyx? Obviously there is a Half-Life 2 feel to this game, but there are plenty of us who miss some of that Half-Life 1 feel. The team responds with, we've never been able to figure out where the rumors of us falling out with Mark came from, because there's no truth to it. He's been super generous with his time throughout the development of Half-Life Alyx, answering many questions from the writers as they hammered away on the story. Several of Half-Life Alyx's team worked on Half-Life 1. There are some things we think we did better in Half-Life 1 than in Half-Life 2, so we did go back to look at it again. As an example of that, the soldier AI in Half-Life 1 was something we looked at carefully during the development of the Combine soldiers in Half-Life Alyx. One of the sound designers also said that the music on Half-Life Alyx is being done by Mike Morasky. I know he's talked with Kelly quite a bit about his approach to the music of Half-Life, so you'll probably hear that come through, but in Mike's unique style. No Biting asks, will we be seeing any familiar faces that we haven't already seen in the trailer? The response is a simple yes. Boldham asks, in Half-Life Alyx, what aspects of the previous Half-Life games did you make sure to include? And what are some things you felt the need to change? The team responds, we did include many of our favorite creatures from the previous games, but with some interesting twists. But we don't want to spoil too much of what you will be experiencing in the game. Joel Kamtar asks, among the playtesters, did any of them ever have to remove the headset out of fear or disgust for the zombies and horrific atmosphere? I only tried VR in public areas and non-violent games, so I really don't know what to expect regarding that matter. Team member Tristan responds, I admit I cannot deal with headcrabs in general, and definitely not in VR. If I'm testing the game and I'm in an area where I know one of those things is around, I'll remove the headset and hold it off my face as I attempt to navigate on the 2D monitor screen to lessen the impact of headcrab discovery. Horror is part of the franchise, and through playtesting, we feel like we've gained some confidence about where to draw this line. Some of our gorier visuals tend to evoke grim fascination rather than revulsion or panic. And apart from myself, we've hardly ever seen anyone nope out of a playtest, even during the creepier sections. Kagirafu asks, has the team experimented with using an inverse kinematics for showing full player arms and bodies in-game? The team responds, we don't render arms due to our experiences with playtesting. We found that players don't notice them missing, and they don't like them obscuring their view. We actually simulate invisible arms though, which connect from your hands back up to your HMD, and we use those to detect impossible things like completely closing a drawer over your wrist. We're planning on releasing a video going into the tech behind our VR hands and interactions, so there will be more on this soon. The team also explains the fiction they went with for the Citadel. The fiction we went with involved the Citadel's full height core being teleported in place, like a giant spear in the ground. The Combine then built around this core fleshing out from gathered resources, which is how you see it in the trailer. An under construction Citadel was a useful visual cliche that helped establish an earlier time than Half-Life 2. In addition to that, the team also hopes to do official merchandise. Physical merchandise is something we want to do more of. We plan to have some of it available before release. Hopefully this answers some of your questions and concerns about Half-Life Alyx. If anything, this AMA has just made me more excited for release. So, as most of you probably know by now, Valve did not appear at the Game Awards to reveal Half-Life Alyx, which is really unfortunate. And yes, that's Valve time at play again. However, Adam Savage's Tested was recently invited to Valve's headquarters to play Half-Life Alyx, and so as a result we now have additional insight on how Half-Life Alyx plays across 8 different VR headsets, as well as more information to glean from the raw gameplay footage. But if Valve felt that they weren't ready to show off Half-Life Alyx and want to improve on their work before officially revealing it, then more power to the Half-Life Alyx team. It's the first Half-Life game in a decade, of course. I'm excited for what's to come, and I sincerely hope you are too. Before I close the video, I also wanted to share one other thing that is really cool. Michael Shapiro sent us off into the new year with the first G-Man voice line since Half-Life 2 Episode 2. I never really thought I'd hear this voice again, but here we are. And boy, does it sound good.
Time. Some things can prove difficult to remember. See you in the new year. And do prepare for consequences.
You heard it yourself from the G-Man. Make sure to prepare for consequences. Another question that I think we've all been probably wondering is if we will see Dog again in Half-Life Alyx. To my knowledge, there were no signs or hints of Dog's existence in the trailer, but I have my fingers crossed for the return of Alyx's robotic pet. So, we've come to the end of the first episode of the Lambda Spotlight. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Want to watch and read more Half-Life goodness? Well, we have social media where you can gorge yourself to your heart's content. If you have questions, concerns, or just want to share your love for Half-Life with us, you can send us an email at mail@LambdaGeneration.com. We also have a Discord server where you can chat with like-minded Half-Life fans. We recently hit 1,000 members as well, so make sure to join. You'll have plenty of people to talk to. I also have social media. You can follow me on Twitter if you think I'm a cool guy, and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. I have some more cool Half-Life content on the way that you might be interested in. Don't forget to subscribe and whack that like button with a crowbar. Oh, don't actually hit your screen with a crowbar. That's probably not a good idea. This has been the Lambda Spotlight. I'll see you next time.